Here we go, diving headfirst into the complex and often bewildering world of narcissism, armed with the sharp insights of Stoic philosophy. Have you ever felt yourself ensnared in a relationship where the lines of connection were blurred, where genuine understanding seemed impossible, and where the entire dynamic felt strangely off? Perhaps you've encountered someone whose every word and action seemed calculated to elicit a specific response, someone who thrived on attention, whether positive or negative, and who seemed utterly incapable of empathy or reciprocal care. You might have been dealing with a narcissist, a master manipulator whose power lies solely in your willingness to play their game. This isn't a casual observation, it's a critical understanding. Narcissists don't seek genuine connection, they crave dominance. Truth is irrelevant, they manufacture illusions. Their entire existence rests on a fragile foundation of manipulation, deception, and an insatiable need for validation. They see life not as an exchange of ideas or mutual respect, but as a performance where they must perpetually occupy center stage. Every argument, every insult, every carefully crafted silence is a test, a probe designed to gauge your reaction and reinforce their illusion of control. But here's the revolutionary truth, the key that unlocks the cage: you don't have to play. The moment you react, whether in anger, frustration, or even defense, you unwittingly reinforce their power. You become a willing participant in their drama, a source of fuel for their insatiable ego. But what if you chose a different path? What if you did the one thing they never expect, the one thing that dismantles their carefully constructed world piece by piece? What if you simply walked away, in stoic silence and unwavering indifference? In the realm of Stoic philosophy, true strength lies not in controlling others, a futile and ultimately self-defeating endeavor, but in mastering oneself, in cultivating inner resilience and emotional independence. The greatest punishment for a narcissist isn't confrontation or argument, it's indifference. When you withdraw your attention, you remove the very oxygen they need to survive. You dismantle their world piece by piece, leaving them alone with the one thing they fear most, themselves. So, how can we apply the wisdom of Stoicism to navigate these challenging interactions? How can the simple act of silence become the most powerful response? Stay tuned, because we're about to unpack the philosophy of walking away, exploring why it's the ultimate act of strength, a declaration of your own sovereignty and a refusal to be manipulated. We will delve into the narcissist's desperate need for control and validation, their addiction to emotional reactions, and the immense power of silence in breaking their manipulative hold. We will examine the devastating impact of detachment on their carefully constructed illusions and explore the fear of abandonment that drives their desperate attempts to regain control. Finally, we will uncover the ultimate weapon in your arsenal, detachment, and its profound impact on the narcissist's inevitable downfall. Prepare to arm yourself with the knowledge and the tools to reclaim your power, protect your well-being, and navigate the treacherous landscape of narcissistic relationships with stoic wisdom and unwavering resolve. This is more than just a survival guide, it's a path to liberation. The anatomy of control, understanding the narcissist's need for validation. Let's start by dissecting the core of the issue, the narcissist's relentless need for control and validation. A narcissist doesn't merely like attention, they demand it. To them, existence itself is a stage, and they must always be the focal point, the center of the universe. Every word, every gesture, every carefully calculated action is designed to extract a reaction from you. Your anger, your frustration, your confusion, these aren't inconveniences to them, they are rewards, tangible proof of their power and influence. In their warped worldview, control isn't about physical dominance or tangible achievements, it's about emotional influence. If they can manipulate your emotions, if they can make you feel what they want you to feel, they believe they hold absolute power over you. Think of it as puppetry, they pull the strings, and you dance to their tune. This manipulative dance isn't always overt or aggressive. Narcissists are masters of subtlety, capable of wielding a whisper as effectively as a shout. They might manipulate with a lingering silence, a carefully placed comment designed to unsettle you, or a subtle dig disguised as a compliment. They might use guilt to make you feel obligated, flattery to draw you in, or passive-aggressive remarks to force you into defending yourself. It's all a game, a carefully orchestrated performance where the only rule is that they must remain in control, and you must be kept off balance, perpetually questioning yourself and seeking their approval. The more you react, the more you feed their illusion of power. You become an unwitting accomplice in their charade, validating their distorted sense of self and reinforcing their manipulative tactics. The constant need for external validation is exhausting and draining. It's like constantly trying to fill a bottomless pit, a Sisyphean task that can never be completed. But here's where Stoicism offers clarity, a beacon of light in the darkness of manipulation. The great philosopher Epictetus, a former slave who rose to become one of the most influential Stoic thinkers, once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." This profound statement cuts to the heart of the matter. A narcissist's power isn't inherent, it exists only if you grant it. They cannot force you to react, they can only tempt you, skillfully exploiting your vulnerabilities and triggering your emotional responses. This understanding is the foundation of their entire strategy. They plant the seed of chaos, the provocative comment, the subtle insult, the calculated silence, and then they wait patiently for you to water it with your emotions. Imagine someone throwing a stone into a still pond. If the water ripples, they know they have disturbed the surface, they have successfully elicited a reaction. But what if the pond remains undisturbed? What if the stone simply sinks, disappearing without effect, leaving the surface smooth and unblemished? The narcissist, without your reaction, is left with nothing, their manipulative efforts thwarted, their illusion of control shattered. The moment you refuse to engage, the moment you deny them the emotional fuel they crave, you render them powerless. You reclaim your agency and break free from their manipulative grip. Stoicism is all about realizing the true nature of your control. A reaction is the evidence of your actions, and in this case, the reaction, anger, sadness, confusion is exactly what the narcissist wants. Understanding is more than half the battle. So, the real question isn't how to change the narcissist, a futile and ultimately self-defeating endeavor. The real question is, will you allow them to pull you into their storm, to be swept away by their emotional turbulence? Or will you remain grounded, unshakable, untouched by their manipulative tactics? The greatest power you possess, the one they fear most, is the ability to walk away in silence, to sever the connection and reclaim your own inner peace. The only real control one can exert is the ability to control their own self, and the ultimate power move is the ability to walk away in silence. The addiction to chaos, understanding the narcissist's need for emotional reactions. Now, let's delve deeper into the psychological underpinnings of narcissistic behavior, specifically their addiction to emotional reactions. A narcissist's need for your reaction isn't merely a desire, it's an addiction, a compulsive craving driven by deep-seated insecurities and a profound lack of self-worth. Like a gambler chasing the next win or an addict seeking the next high, they are constantly searching for validation to fill the void within them, the emptiness that gnaws at their core. Their sense of self isn't built on inner strength, self-awareness, or genuine accomplishment, it's entirely dependent on the emotional responses they can extract from others. Every reaction, whether anger, frustration, admiration, or even fear, feeds this dependency, providing a temporary boost to their fragile ego and momentarily silencing the deep-seated insecurity that haunts them. In that fleeting moment when they provoke you, when they successfully elicit a reaction, they feel powerful, as if they have momentarily silenced the doubts and insecurities that plague their existence. They see it as a form of domination. But like any addiction, the relief never lasts. The fleeting sense of power and validation quickly fades, leaving them craving more, driving them to seek out new sources of emotional fuel and perpetuate the cycle of manipulation. They are always seeking for what's next, and it is what they are always searching for. However, there's one thing a narcissist cannot tolerate, one weapon that pierces their armor and exposes their vulnerability: silence. The moment you stop reacting, the moment you withdraw your attention and refuse to play their game, their world begins to crumble. They have spent their lives perfecting the art of manipulation, carefully orchestrating situations to keep others emotionally entangled in their web of control. They rely on the fact that most people will instinctively defend themselves, explain their actions, or retaliate when provoked. This is exactly what they expect. But when faced with indifference, when met with unwavering silence and detachment, they are thrown into unfamiliar territory, a realm where their usual tactics are ineffective and their carefully constructed facade begins to crack. The script they have followed their entire lives no longer works, and they are left exposed, scrambling for a response that no longer comes. This is where the power dynamic shifts irrevocably. A narcissist is prepared for confrontation. They are armed with arguments, accusations, and manipulative strategies designed to deflect blame and maintain control. However, they are utterly unprepared for detachment, for the silent withdrawal of your emotional energy. Your silence creates a void they do not know how to fill, a vacuum that amplifies their insecurities and exposes their lack of genuine self-worth. The mind that once fed on emotional chaos is now left starving, deprived of the fuel it needs to sustain its illusion of power. This absence of reaction triggers something they rarely experience, something they desperately try to avoid: self-doubt. Why aren't they reacting? Did I lose control? Am I no longer significant? The very foundation of their identity, built upon controlling others' emotions, begins to fracture. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor and a staunch advocate for Stoic principles, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet profound statement encapsulates the essence of Stoic resilience. A narcissist's power is an illusion, sustained only by the reactions they provoke. When you withdraw, when you refuse to engage, you take away the only thing they truly need: your attention. And in that moment, you reclaim your power, not by fighting, not by explaining, but by simply walking away, in stoic silence and unwavering detachment. Taking one's power back is something that is hard to teach but easy to understand. The power of silence, breaking the cycle of manipulation. Let's explore the transformative power of silence, a weapon far more potent than any argument or confrontation in the arsenal of Stoic self-defense. Silence isn't merely the absence of words, it's a strategic tool, a deliberate choice to withhold the emotional fuel that sustains the narcissist's manipulative machinery. A narcissist's entire existence revolves around controlling the emotions of others, bending reality to suit their fragile ego and maintaining their illusion of power and superiority. They don't thrive on peace, harmony, or genuine connection, they thrive on reaction, on the emotional turbulence they create around them. Every argument, every plea, every moment of emotional distress you express is proof in their mind that they still matter, that they still hold power over you. They don't want real conversation, they want to feel in control, and they need to control one's emotions to do so. But what happens when you give them nothing? What happens when you refuse to engage, when you meet their provocations with unwavering silence and detachment? To a narcissist, indifference is intolerable, a direct challenge to their carefully constructed world and a profound threat to their fragile ego. The longer they are met with silence, the more they are forced to confront a truth they have spent their entire lives avoiding: they are powerless without an audience. The illusion they've built, the belief that they are the center of attention, the orchestrator of emotions, begins to unravel. Your absence becomes a mirror they cannot ignore, reflecting back the emptiness they so desperately try to escape. In the reflection, it shows who they truly are. More than anything, a narcissist needs to feel important, to know that they occupy a significant space in the minds of others. Whether through admiration or conflict, they crave validation that they exist, that they have an impact on the world around them. Your reactions, especially emotional ones, reinforce this belief, validating their distorted sense of self and perpetuating the cycle of manipulation. When you fight back, when you defend yourself, when you plead for understanding, you are unknowingly feeding the very dynamic they depend on. You are giving them the attention they crave and reinforcing their belief that they hold power over you. But when you refuse to engage, when you remain still and unshaken in the face of their provocations, you become something they cannot manipulate, a blank canvas, a void where their usual tactics fail to take root. The carefully crafted insults and accusations bounce off you, leaving no mark. The attempts to provoke you fall flat, eliciting no response. You become an enigma, a source of frustration and confusion for the narcissist, who is accustomed to controlling the emotional landscape around them. The greatest tool that you can have over them is just not playing the game. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not the events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about them." A narcissist's greatest weapon isn't their words or actions, it's your response. They plant the seed of chaos and rely on you to water it with your emotions. But when you withdraw, when you refuse to give them what they seek, the entire structure collapses. The manipulative tactics lose their power, and the narcissist is left floundering, struggling to regain control of a situation that is rapidly slipping away from them. This is where the true power shift occurs. A narcissist, for all their calculated games and their carefully constructed facade of confidence, is deeply insecure. Their confidence is a performance, their sense of superiority a mask designed to conceal their underlying vulnerabilities. When they can no longer extract validation from you, when their attempts to provoke you are met with nothing but silence, they experience something they are wholly unprepared for: irrelevance. Without your reaction, their sense of self begins to erode. They are left scrambling, grasping for control that no longer exists. The power one has in the response, therefore, is a weapon to be used with care. This is why silence is more devastating than any confrontation. It doesn't give them the satisfaction of a battle, the opportunity to twist your words, reframe the narrative, and emerge victorious in their own minds. It simply leaves them alone with the one thing they fear most, themselves. Walking away isn't just an act of self-preservation, it's the ultimate dismantling of their illusion, a declaration of your own sovereignty and a refusal to be manipulated any longer. The crumbling foundation, the collapse of the narcissist's illusion. Now, let's explore the profound and often unsettling consequences of your withdrawal, the unraveling of the narcissist's carefully constructed illusion. A narcissist thrives on engagement, on keeping people trapped in their carefully woven web of manipulation and control. Every word, every action, every calculated silence serves a singular purpose: to ensure that you remain emotionally entangled in their world, a willing participant in their drama. They orchestrate interactions like a conductor leading a symphony, dictating the tempo of every conversation, every conflict, every fleeting moment of peace. Their power lies not in their inherent strength or genuine connection, but in their ability to keep you reacting, to control your emotional responses and maintain their position at the center of your world. The world is not a stage but a carefully controlled experiment where they are in control of the players, the setting, and even the emotions of the other actors. But what happens when you refuse to play along? What happens when you stop feeding into the emotional cycle they have so carefully cultivated? When you walk away, you don't just exit a relationship or a conversation, you dismantle the very foundation of their control. It's as if you've broken the rhythm of their performance mid-scene, leaving them standing alone on a stage with no audience, no script, and no direction. Without you to mirror their false sense of superiority, to validate their distorted sense of self, their illusion begins to unravel. The power of a narcissist does not come from within, it comes from the reactions they extract from others. Every insult designed to provoke you, every act of passive aggression, every moment of guilt or admiration they manufacture is a tool meant to reinforce their sense of significance, to solidify their position at the center of your attention. But when you step away, when you withdraw your attention and refuse to engage, you rob them of the emotional currency they rely on. And without that constant reinforcement, their world begins to collapse in on itself. This is the moment of reckoning, the point where the carefully constructed facade begins to crumble under the weight of its own emptiness. The silence you create is deafening to them because, for the first time, they are left alone with their own thoughts, their own insecurities, their own emptiness. The inner monologue has been stopped and the emptiness overwhelms. Narcissists are not equipped to handle being ignored. They have spent their entire lives curating an existence where they are the center of attention, where their sense of self is constantly validated by the reactions of those around them. But when that validation disappears, when they are forced to confront the reality of their own insignificance, they are sent into a state of profound crisis. They will not have had the opportunity to examine their own world, and will fall into the void. They will lack the self-awareness that can only be gained through quiet contemplation. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "A person's worth is measured by the worth of what they value." A narcissist places their worth in external validation, in the power they hold over others. They have never learned to find strength in solitude, to cultivate inner peace, to exist without an audience. And so, when you remove yourself, when you choose silence over conflict, detachment over engagement, they are left scrambling for meaning in a world where they no longer hold dominion. They will react, of course. They may lash out, trying to provoke you one last time, attempting to manipulate you back into their orbit. They may shift tactics, suddenly becoming apologetic, affectionate, even remorseful, anything to regain their foothold in your life. But the truth is, without your participation, they are powerless. The persona they have crafted, the illusion they have projected cannot survive without the constant reinforcement of others. When you walk away, you do more than escape their control, you force them to face the one thing they fear most, themselves. And in that moment, the collapse of their illusion is complete. The desperate plea, the fear of abandonment and the narcissist's downfall. Let's delve into the psychological depths of the narcissist's response to your withdrawal, exploring the primal fear that drives their desperate attempts to regain control. Walking away from a narcissist isn't just an act of self-preservation, it's an outright rejection of the entire system they have built to control and manipulate others. This is why it triggers something deeper than mere frustration or anger. It ignites a fear they are unable to suppress, a terror that strikes at the very core of their fragile existence. To a narcissist, being ignored isn't just an inconvenience, it's a direct assault on their sense of self, a challenge to their right to exist. Their existence is defined by the reactions they can provoke, the emotions they can manipulate, and the attention they can demand. When that attention is withdrawn, when they are met with unwavering silence and detachment, they are left grasping at a reality they no longer control, desperately searching for a way to restore their illusion of power and superiority. At first, they may try to reassert dominance, employing the tactics that have always worked in the past. They might guilt-trip you, reminding you of all they've done for you, attempting to evoke feelings of obligation and remorse. They might paint themselves as the victim, casting you as the cruel and heartless one who is abandoning them in their time of need. Or they might escalate their behavior, becoming more aggressive, more demanding, more desperate in their attempts to provoke a reaction, to break through your wall of silence and force you to engage with them once more. They are not just trying to win you back, they are trying to restore their place at the center of your personal world, to regain control of the emotional landscape that defines their existence. But when you maintain your distance, when you refuse to engage, the dynamic shifts irreversibly. The narcissist begins to sense the truth, their usual methods no longer work, their carefully crafted tactics are failing to elicit the desired response. And this is where they become most vulnerable, exposed to the terrifying reality of their own insignificance. A narcissist's self-worth isn't self-generated, it's borrowed, extracted, and entirely dependent on external validation. Without it, they begin to unravel, their carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of its own emptiness. Their internal sense of self, such as it is destroyed. Walking away is more than an act of defiance, it's a form of exposure, forcing them to confront a terrifying truth they have spent their lives avoiding. Without control over others, they are nothing. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." The narcissist's entire world is built on the illusion that they control others, that they can dictate the emotional landscape around them. When you reject that illusion, when you remove yourself from their grasp, you take away their greatest source of power, your emotional energy. In the absence of your reactions, they face a profound emptiness, a void that threatens to consume them. They may try to replace you, seeking out new sources of validation, new individuals to manipulate and control. But no substitute will feel quite the same. The narcissist isn't simply looking for admiration or attention, they are looking for control. They need to know they can affect you, shape your emotions, and dictate your responses. When you withhold this from them, their sense of self begins to fracture, their carefully constructed world crumbles around them. At this stage, desperation takes hold, driving them to increasingly extreme measures in their attempts to regain control. Some narcissists may resort to anger, lashing out in a final, furious attempt to break through your detachment, unleashing a torrent of insults and accusations designed to provoke a reaction. Others may shift tactics suddenly, becoming apologetic, affectionate, even remorseful, showering you with attention and affection in a desperate attempt to regain their foothold in your life. But underneath the performance, underneath the carefully crafted facade of remorse, lies the same motive: control. The remorse may be real, but is secondary to the need for control. What makes silence so devastating to a narcissist is that it is something they cannot manipulate. They're experts in twisting words, distorting reality, and creating chaos to keep people emotionally entangled. But silence is untouchable, it leaves them with no leverage, no counterattack, no means to regain control. Your detachment isn't just a personal boundary, it's a direct challenge to their existence, a threat to the very foundation of their carefully constructed world. The narcissist has spent a lifetime constructing a persona of superiority, an illusion of power, a carefully crafted facade designed to conceal their underlying insecurities. But when you refuse to engage, that illusion cracks, the applause stops, the audience leaves, and they are left alone with a truth they cannot escape: they were never as powerful as they believed. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. A narcissist's power is an illusion that only survives if you allow it. The moment you reclaim your emotional independence, their control over you disappears. They will struggle, they will resist, they will try to draw you back in, but in the end, they are left with nothing but the silence they cannot bear. And that silence, the one thing they cannot control, is what ultimately breaks them, exposing the emptiness at the core of their existence. The ultimate liberation, detachment, and the narcissist's downfall. Let's conclude by examining the ultimate weapon in your arsenal, detachment, and its profound impact on the narcissist's inevitable downfall. A narcissist's world isn't built on truth, genuine connection, or mutual respect, it's built on illusion, a carefully constructed facade they must maintain at all costs. This illusion is their armor, their carefully crafted mask of superiority, power, and control, designed to conceal the emptiness that lies beneath. They depend on the perceptions of others to sustain their identity, feeding off admiration, attention, and emotional reactions like oxygen. Without this constant validation, their illusion begins to crack, their carefully curated world starts to collapse, and they are forced to confront the terrifying reality of their own insignificance. A narcissist doesn't possess a solid, internal sense of self, their identity is fragile, entirely dependent on how others perceive them. This is why they manipulate, charm, and control, doing anything to ensure that their image remains intact. They cannot allow others to see the truth, because even they cannot face it. The idea of being insignificant, of being unimportant, of being ordinary is intolerable. And so, they weave an intricate web of deception, projecting a false image of perfection, success, and superiority, all to keep their illusion alive. But the moment you walk away, the moment you detach emotionally and refuse to play their game, that illusion is shattered. Your absence forces them to confront a truth they have spent their lives avoiding: they are not as powerful as they believe, they are not as special as they claim, and they are not as loved as they desperately want to be. When you stop reacting, stop feeding their need for validation, you remove the foundation upon which their entire identity is built. And without that foundation, they have nothing to hold on to. This realization is terrifying for the narcissist. They have spent their lives controlling others, dictating the emotional landscape, ensuring that they remain the center of attention. But when you disengage, when you refuse to be a pawn in their game, they are left scrambling, desperately trying to regain control of a situation that is rapidly slipping away from them. Their constructed world is collapsing and they have no idea how to fix it. The mask they wear begins to slip, revealing the insecurity and self-doubt they have desperately tried to suppress. The carefully crafted facade of confidence crumbles, exposing the vulnerability and emptiness that lies beneath. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." A narcissist's power isn't real, it exists only if you give it to them. The moment you stop engaging, you break the cycle of manipulation, you reclaim your agency, and you take back control of your own life. At first, the narcissist will resist, attempting to guilt-trip you, provoke you, or even play the victim, all in an effort to pull you back into their orbit. They might lash out in anger, using insults and accusations to break through your detachment and force you to react. Or they might use passive-aggressive tactics, subtly undermining your confidence and attempting to regain control of your emotions. But the more you maintain your distance, the more their illusion unravels. They are left vulnerable, exposed, and unable to restore the carefully crafted image they have spent their entire lives protecting. The narcissist's greatest fear is abandonment, the terrifying prospect of being alone with their own emptiness, without anyone to validate their existence or reinforce their false sense of importance. Because without others to mirror their false sense of importance, they feel invisible, as if they do not exist. To them, losing control over you is more than just a personal defeat, it is an existential crisis, a threat to their very being. They are forced to confront a truth they cannot handle, that their self-worth is nothing more than a reflection of how others see them, that they are ultimately dependent on external validation to sustain their fragile sense of self. This is why detachment is the ultimate weapon. It isn't loud, it isn't aggressive, it is silent, and yet it is the most devastating response you can give. When you choose to walk away, you take away the one thing they cannot function without, your attention. The illusion crumbles, the applause stops, and for the first time, they are left to face the emptiness they have spent their lives running from. From the moment you choose to walk away, you do more than break free from a toxic relationship, you dismantle the illusion that the narcissist has built, forcing them to face the one thing they have always feared, themselves. No longer able to control your emotions, no longer able to manipulate your reactions, they are left standing in the silence of their own making, a silence that amplifies their insecurities and exposes the emptiness at the core of their existence. And in that silence, the truth becomes unavoidable, they were never as powerful as they believed, their control was always an illusion, and their carefully constructed world was always built on a foundation of lies. But the true victory isn't in their downfall, it's in your liberation. Walking away isn't just about escaping toxicity, it's about reclaiming your peace, your energy, and your sense of self. It's a declaration that you refuse to be controlled, that your worth isn't defined by how someone else perceives you, and that you are capable of creating a fulfilling and meaningful life on your own terms. The true victory, then, is to find yourself again, not just to leave an abuser behind. The lessons learned in that hell have made one stronger, more cautious, and a more empathetic person. The Stoics taught us that power lies not in changing others, a futile and ultimately self-defeating endeavor, but in mastering ourselves, in cultivating inner resilience and emotional independence. And when you detach, when you choose inner strength over external chaos, you step into a life where you are no longer a prisoner of someone else's validation, a slave to their manipulative tactics, or a victim of their distorted worldview. You become the master of your own destiny, free to pursue your own values, cultivate your own relationships, and live a life of purpose and fulfillment, guided by the principles of Stoic wisdom and unwavering self-respect. You can go forward with caution but without fear. So, have you ever experienced the power of detachment? How did it change your perspective? What lessons did you learn from walking away from a toxic relationship? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear your story and learn from your experiences. And if you found value in this message, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights on Stoicism, resilience, and the art of emotional freedom. Remember, true strength isn't found in fighting battles, it's found in knowing which ones are not worth your time. See you in the next video.